Hi, I'm back again, and this is a multiple part section on transitioning late in life. It gave me a little break, a little bit of time to catch my breath a little bit, recover. Sorry about the last section. Not a great thing to have to talk about, but I feel it necessary and somewhat therapeutic. These video clips are helpful to me too. And I hope somebody finds them helpful as well. So we're talking about transitioning late in life, and as I said before, I'm 49, and I've transitioned. I've been on hormones for 2 years and full time for 2 years. So, why is it that some people wait so long to transition, and why do they get married? And a lot of transgender people do get married and then transition later in life. And it's a difficult question to answer. Everybody's story's different. As you can see, mine's very different. And everybody has their demons that they have to deal with, and their problems in their lives, and their insecurities, and God, I sure have mine. This section I'm going to talk about marriage and religion. In the last section I talked about an accident that I was involved in, and afterwards I got really depressed. Went to a psychologist that couldn't help me, and then I went to another counselor that suggested that, he couldn't help me either, and suggested maybe I should go talk to the clergy. Well, my family was very religious. So I went ahead and went to church and talked to them about me and my problem and my accident and feeling guilty and suicidal. And as the case with most clergy, they said go to church. So I did. Well, we go to church in the Jehovah's Witness religion. We go to church on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. At least that was the situation at the time. And so I did. And it was just wonderful. Life became amazing, but not for the reason you think. The minute I stepped into church and started taking things seriously, my parents decided they loved me. And before that, they really didn't have the time of day for me. As I said in the earlier segments, I was the neglected middle child, the bad kid in the family, and they didn't really know how to deal with me. But when I stepped into their church and started taking their religion seriously, they just loved me. I went from the black sheep, the horrible kid in the family, to the golden child. I felt finally loved by my parents. And the more I got involved in church, the more they loved me. And I realized then, I thought, so this is what it's all about. This is how you're supposed to live life. You do what they say, go to their church, and they love you. And it worked. I felt really good. Though I have to say, transgender feelings never went away. I felt loved by my parents, which I hadn't before, so I felt good. After church on Sundays and Thursdays or Tuesdays, I had noticed that my mom would get involved in a conversation with a beautiful red-headed girl. And this went on a couple times, until my mom finally pulled me over and said, I want to introduce you to somebody. And she did. She says, Roxy, of course my name wasn't Roxy at the time. She says, Roxy, I want you to meet Patricia Jones. She, like I said, she was a beautiful redhead with blue eyes and milky complexion. God. I really adored her physical appearance. She was gorgeous. But you want to know the first thing that I said to her? And this is kind of funny to think about now. So my mom says, I want you to meet Patricia Jones. And I said, hi, nice to meet you. Come on, Mom, let's go. That was it. That's all I had to say. Come on, Mom, let's go. Well, apparently that impressed Patricia. About a week later, she called and invited me to Disneyland. So I went, of course. And my mom and dad were thrilled about that too. My mom in particularly, because my mom kind of chose her in a certain way. And I was thrilled to be so pleasing to my parents. But so that day at Disneyland, Patti kissed me more than once. It was good that she took the initiative because I wouldn't. But let's see, that was on December 5th. By January 23rd, I was married to her. And again, my parents were just thrilled. You know, my mom was just so excited to arrange that wedding for me and Patti, and life was good because my parents loved me, and Patti seemed to love me, and at least she wanted me, you know, which was nice to be found desirable. Though, you know, I have to reiterate, I wasn't out to anybody. I was still transgender. I still didn't like girls, but I admired Patti. I admired her beauty, and God, if you're going to be attracted to somebody, she would be the one, because she's gorgeous. Anyways, a funny thing, a couple days before I was to be married, Patti came to me and said, I have some really bad news. And I said, what? And she says, I'm going to be on my period during our honeymoon. And I said to her, oh, darn. And I was thinking, yay! I thought that was just perfect. I thought God answered my prayers. I thought that that would give me just a week or so to kind of get to know her, and maybe, you know, things would just be perfect. So the wedding day came, and we waited for the right time to have sex. A week passed, and didn't work. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I still couldn't do anything. Weeks turned into a month. Months went by. It was 3 months before I could have any sort of intercourse with her. And I still wasn't really functioning or anything, and it was a very complicated time, and but I was able to, you know, make it kind of work, and well, eventually we had children, so obviously I got the hang of things. But I always just felt kind of bad having intercourse. Afterwards I just kind of felt bad, you know, like I did something wrong, and that, you know, I kind of compromised myself every time, and it never went away throughout my whole... I was married for 30 years, and every time I didn't feel any different. Very difficult situation to have to live with. But as I said, I had 2 children, actually 3 children by the time, well, we had three lovely daughters. So let's see. At our we had 2 children, and we were coming right up on our 10th year anniversary. So I was pretty amazed that Patti had decided to stay with me for 10 years or close to it. And I started thinking about our relationship, and I thought, because I really didn't think anybody would stay with me that long. Because, you know, well, how could they? They didn't know who I was. And I was never out to her, never told her of my feelings. So, you know, I just felt pretty impressed that this girl had weathered through so much difficult times, and she stayed with me. And emotionally, we were like on 2 opposite ends of the planet. But I thought then at that time, I have to come out to her. And I have to talk to her, because she's obviously in it for the long haul, and she's obviously a good person and understanding. She must understand this. So I thought that by coming out to her, that it would draw us closer. And I knew that there was this huge gap between us emotionally. So I approached her one evening and told her I had something really serious that I needed to talk to her about. And I said, I started to talk to her a little bit. She knew how serious that I was being, and which was kind of odd because I never talked to her, and certainly not as any serious emotional things I never talked to her about. So she's seen how difficult it was for me to talk, and how serious the issue was, and I kind of just barely got the cat out of the bag about being transgender, but I hardly even addressed the issue, and she stopped me, and she said she had to talk to me first, and I agreed to it. So I sat down, and she told me that she was having an affair and that it was still ongoing. Well, I was really devastated. I probably unfairly, I thought that I had been faithful, and I just expected my spouse to be faithful. I mean, I knew that she could hate me and find me complicated and irritating because I was so closed off, but I just didn't expect infidelity, and I was devastated. And instead of talking to her anymore about my issues, I kind of went into a survival mode, and I felt it necessary to keep everything together. So I snapped out of it, and I whipped myself into shape, and I became the person that she wanted, And I wanted to keep her. I didn't want to be left alone. And I'm such a screwed up, mixed up person. God, there's no place for me if I don't have a spouse to come home to. So I really tried really, really hard to be that person that she wanted. And I think somewhere in the rule books of marriage and having difficulty, it says to have another child if you're having difficulty or if your marriage is on the rocks, which we did. So like I said, I tried really hard to be everything that she wanted. I'm going to have to stop there because apparently I just talk too much and the time just goes by. And I can't make these videos too long, otherwise I can't load them up onto YouTube. So I'm going to stop there, and I'll be back with another section. This has been Roxy Rose talking about transitioning late in life. And I will talk to you about the second half of our marriage and that sort of thing. So I will be back shortly. Bye-bye.